Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Health Wealth. We're joined by a very special guest here today, Michael Johnson, known mainly as Michael Mojo, founder of the Mojo Performance Institute. We're going to find out about his life and how he got to where he is. So, first of all, Michael, how are you doing today?
Good. I think better than your early start. It's the end of the day here, so it's pretty good.
Yeah. It's the wonders of technology. I'm starting my day as you're finishing yours.
Yeah, awesome.
Good. So, just give us a real quick background on who you are and what you do now, and then we're going to kind of dig into how you got to where you did.
Awesome. Well, I'm Michael Mojo, founder of Mojo Human Performance Institute and Mojo Performance. We just help people perform better, and we specifically do it more targeted towards business owners. A lot of them are trapped in their business, feel a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of tension. Our job is to help streamline more of their life and create more flow, both in their business through the systems and operations, but also as well in their personal life as well. Because I think you can't do well in one area without having other areas that sort of either get sacrificed, or you've got to find some sort of a system or a process of living more holistically. Although I hate using that word, but living more holistically, like, your intimate relationship. If you've got a problem in that, it's going to affect your business. And if your business isn't going well, that's going to affect your mental health, probably your physical health. So they all sort of integrate into each other. And I don't think a lot of business owners do a good job of trying to streamline their life and their business as well, so they all sort of flow and work together.
Yeah, completely. That's very true. That's kind of our view of it here as well, is that you've got to link everything together with your health, your physical health, mental health, your lifestyle, how you're structuring everything. You're right. And especially, like you say, with business owners, it's very easy to get your business is everything, and everything else gets pushed to the side and stressed out and fall apart. So yeah, that's interesting. Definitely interesting to hear about that. What I wanted to talk a bit about, because I know you've got a really interesting backstory, is kind of where you started from and kind of some of the struggles that you overcame, especially as a kid. So if you wanted to kind of just rewind back to the start and talk us through some of the stuff you went through.
Yeah. So I guess if I go back to like school age, I wasn't really the best at school. I was normally in trouble. I got put into special classes, told I had learning difficulties, and sort of went through those struggles. Didn't really have a close friendship group either. My parents were quite young. My mum was 17 when she had me, and my dad was 19. And so I spent a lot of my younger years going to parties, and we would go away quite a lot. They still sort of lived the life that they lived, which was cool. Like I grew up motorbike riding, wakeboarding, water skiing. Like, nice. It was really, really cool. But all of my friends were all my parents' friends, because they were still quite young and partying and having fun. And I don't think mum and dad ever made us sort of feel like a burden as such. If they wanted to go somewhere, we were going with them. So we got brought up in that sort of environment, but that also meant that I wasn't able to go and hang out with other kids on weekends and stuff like that. So I would go to school on Monday and everyone's been hanging out together and playing sport. For me, I'd been like motorbike riding, and, we had these, huge fires and stuff like that. Like, we're doing crazy stuff, like, out there shooting guns and blowing stuff up and just doing crazy stuff that probably, young dudes do. But I guess I probably did it 20 years earlier than what most people do. So yeah, I grew up in that environment, and that made quite a lot of tension at school. I didn't really fit in. Then at 15, I got expelled from school, and I got expelled from fighting. I used to get picked on quite a lot. I had bright red hair, I had freckles, white pasty skin, I was chubby. And for some weird reason, my parents knew that I had aggression issues, so they put me into boxing classes. And so I started boxing, and whenever I got picked on, I sort of silenced the people who were picking on me pretty quickly, and I normally didn't get messed with too much after that. But yeah, one day I got myself in a bit too much trouble and ended up getting expelled from school. And I realized I had no place at school. I didn't fit in at school, and I didn't fit in really at home, because I was always in trouble. And I was going to end my life at 15. And then I just realized that I couldn't please anybody. I'd been trying to please my parents up to that point, and I was trying to please others at school, just didn't fit in. And I decided to go back to school. I wanted to go back to school, though, just to complete, end of high school. but I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew that I was good at some of the sciences like biology and chemistry. I was always really inquisitive as to how things worked. I used to ask a lot of questions, which also got me in a lot of trouble. But I also knew that I wasn't going to go through the typical university system, even though that's what my mum wanted me to do. And so I became a heavy duty or a heavy diesel mechanic, so working on mining equipment or diesel fitter. Did my apprenticeship, hated it, didn't really want to be there. I found that most guys were going to the mines and making a lot of money. Like mining's huge here in Australia. You can make a lot of money, but they were just unhappy. They, I thought that the goal was to get a good career so that you could make lots of money and then you'd be happy. What I saw was all these guys were making a lot of money, extremely unhappy. They would just buy crap. Like they'd buy jet skis, motorbikes, cars, all of that. So they had everything, yet they were just miserable. They'd complain all the time. They'd complain about their wife. They'd complain about their kids. They'd complain about how much the boss sucked. Like it was just this constant chronic complaining in the culture. And I knew I didn't want to be there. And the only place that ever made me feel good about myself was going to the gym. So I started training when I was quite young at around 14 to try to lose weight. Just loved it at the gym. And so that's where I wanted to be. Decided to become a personal trainer and study. And back then it was 2 years to become a personal trainer. Wasn't a cool thing. There wasn't like the whole Instagram, social media thing. We were essentially just dropkick losers that had nothing else better to do, that were just at the gym lifting heavy weights. So I wanted to be in that industry, really loved it, but it scared the crap out of me having to go back to school to learn because, learning difficulties. So I got really scared, but I did it anyway. Eventually I was a straight A student when I was there, did really, really well. And then my best mate's 3-year-old niece was killed in a car accident. And for me, I just remember thinking, what's the purpose of my life? Why am I here? How do I want to be remembered when I'm not here? And it sort of put the idea of death right in front of my eyes. And for me, it was one of probably the worst things that happened to me in my life, but also one of the best things, because I just started questioning what I was doing and what I was here for. And I just realized that I wanted to help people. I just wanted to get out there and help people feel better about themselves like I wanted. And then I resigned from my apprenticeship to become a full qualified diesel fitter, and walked into the local gym and just said, give me an opportunity. I'll do anything. Just let me have a shot. Like I'll clean toilets. I'll do anything. And they let me work on the front desk back in the days where they had barcodes and you used to have to scan them to come in. And within a couple of weeks, I knew everybody at the gym. Just I'd talk to them. The mums would come in with their kids. I'd talk to them. And then I'd go upstairs and I'd train with them. And after a while, it was only a couple of months in, my boss came to me and he said, everyone knows you. They love you. They know a lot of stuff about exercising and training, because I would do a lot of study after hours and I was training for me as well. And he said to me, they keep asking if you'll train them. Now, I know you're not qualified yet, but if you don't tell anyone, just start. And so that's what made me step up and become a personal trainer. I started before I was qualified. And then within, I think about a year and a half, I'd set up a franchise system with them. I was going out to other gyms and educating other personal trainers. We had set up systems with the medical healthcare clinics as well. So we were starting to integrate with healthcare, the healthcare system, which hadn't really been done before. Like it had sort of been around the place, but not like it is today. And that's where I found my love of teaching and coaching and helping others. So I kept doing that. Eventually I got headhunted to go and work in a medical center doing physical rehab. And when I was there, I'd been in the personal training industry for about 9 years. And one day I just remember seeing the same people coming into the medical center, and they had the same sicknesses, the same problems, the same complaints, and they were just stuck on this rotating wheel of sickness and poor health. And I was talking to this one big, scary looking dude, shaved head, big beard, tattoos everywhere. And I was like, this guy's like this scary dude. And he broke down in front of me and he started crying. And he's like, I've been here because of this back pain. I'm trying to fix it. But at the same time, like, it's not getting any better. I feel really shit, and he was just going through everything with all of these pains and problems that he had. And he said, Michael, they think it's all in my head. And it was sort of in that moment that I clicked that everyone knows what to do. They just don't do it. And it all has to do with what goes on in here. And back 11 years ago, it wasn't a common thing where people were talking about mental health, psychology, mental performance, anything like that. So really, it was like you'd go and see a psychologist because you were crazy, or you'd go and see a psychiatrist because you were crazy. that was about it. Like there was no other reason really, or you had some sort of emotional shit going on that you couldn't deal with. But I thought, you know what, there's a missing piece here somewhere. Like I'd studied personal training, then I got into strength and conditioning because I wanted to help people. Then I studied nutrition because I wanted to help people to heal. And then I'm like, crap, the missing piece here is the mindset. Like you can have the best health and a shitty mindset and your body's still going to run pretty average. You know, you've got an amazing body, but your mindset's pretty average. You're still going to fall apart and have mental breakdowns and do crazy stuff. And I saw it working in the bodybuilding industry. So that's what led me down this path. And so I've been working in the mental performance side, mental health side of things for about 11 years now.
Wow. That's a super interesting story. Like you've gone from like the different stepping stones along the way to find you to where you are. And I completely agree with what you're saying about the whole, the mindset side of things. Mindset's so important. As you say, if you're going to improve your overall life quality and standards, you've got to improve your mental health with your physical health. Otherwise, as you say, difficult things come, you're going to drop off, you're going to stop doing it, you're not going to have discipline, and it's going to really affect you. So on the mental side of things, what kind of things do you find that works well to help people? And is there do people kind of have the same common issues that they come in with, or is everyone completely different?
Really good question. That's going to take me like an hour to go for that. But look, I think when I was studying it, I started studying NLP back, 12, 13 years ago. That's sort of where I got the idea, and then it sort of all clicked in the medical center and so on. And then I went to all the motivation guys and all this stuff. But I kept having these times where I would fall into these huge ruts as well. And I was like, what's going on? Why can't I get traction? Like I know I want to do something great. I want to perform well. I want our business to go well, but I couldn't get it off the ground properly. And then I would find myself like watching myself binge eat food and go like, what's going on here? Like I don't want to do this, but I'm still doing it. Then I would go get more motivated again and do the whole rah-rah, fist pumping the air, jumping up and down, remove all your limiting belief stuff. But I kept finding that there was a gap that no one was talking about, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And it wasn't until one day I sort of had time where I was just in this huge rut that business wasn't going well. I'd left the personal training industry and I was making really good money in that industry to start going down the mindset space and running seminars and events. We were using like myself and now my wife, we were using all of our savings to try and keep the business afloat. And I'm thinking like, what's going on here? And it wasn't until one day I really sat down, I mapped out, I had all these tools. Like I'd spent, I'm not sure if it was close to $1 million or over $1 million throughout my life up to that point on studying and learning and growth and seminars and courses and coaches. And what I realized was that without a good long-term strategy, things keep falling apart. And I think most people suffer from some form of shiny object syndrome where they think that something else is going to fix all their problems. And so they jump into one thing and then they're onto the next thing. And they just don't really know. And a lot of people bounce around between job to jobs and they think that a better job is going to help them feel better about life, and it normally doesn't. And so when I really reflected, I'd come across work on value systems, and I was sort of studying, at the time I was studying value systems reasonably in depth. And I found out that most people, when they're talking about values, were talking about them incorrectly. It wasn't based on the field of axiology, which is the study of value systems. And so in that field of study, they talk about values being something that's a physical, tangible thing that comes from a void that we have from when we're younger. And our fulfillment comes from filling up that emptiness that we have inside of ourselves that we're searching for. So what I realized was that values was a key component to long-term drive and long-term fulfillment. So that was sort of one of the missing pieces. I also started realizing that most people think about why they're here, which is their purpose. So you've got values, you've got purpose, but then there's also this idea of lifestyle balance that most people think about quite consistently. But without understanding your values and your purpose, you'll never get your lifestyle balance, because lifestyle balance is unique to the individual. I love working, so I work 60 to 80 hours a week, and that's normal for me, and I feel completely balanced. If I work any less than that, I feel like I could be doing more. And if I work over that, depending on the week and what's going on, I start to then burn out. Training, I love physical exercise and physical movement. So for me, that's a high value of mine. If I don't do an hour to 2 hours of physical movement a day, I feel like I'm not doing enough or whatever. Now, that's some people's idea of a nightmare. But to me, that's exactly what my lifestyle balance is. So when I figured that pillar out, I realized that fulfillment comes from essentially fulfillment is a pillar that most people are trying to find within their own life. So I started building this success map, I called it. And so pillar one is finding out what really fulfills you, because that's going to drive you long term. It's going to make you consistent. And then when you look at value systems and value structures, you're more reliable, you're more dependable, you're more focused, you think more long term. Also, you get more blood flow into the prefrontal cortex of the brain, more glucose, more oxygen. So you think better. You have more energy. Yeah, under your emotional states, you tend to convert a lot of thought energy into chemical energy because of the hormonal changes and all this sort of stuff and the neurochemistry. So you're probably going to burn out less. So I realized that that's a really key component. That's number one, is figure out what fulfills you through your values, your purpose, and your lifestyle balance. Number two was understanding what your long-term mission is. When you're short-term thinking, you tend to be driven more by the amygdala, which I guess is part of the limbic system or the emotional system within the brain structure. It's a more primitive brain structure, and it's based on either it's the flight, fight, and freeze response, essentially. So it's stress, fear, worry, concern, and then also pleasure. So a lot of our impulses come from that part of the brain. Like when we're impulsive, we tend to be driven more by our emotions, and impulsiveness is normally a byproduct of fear and worry. You know, like after a hard day of work, you're driving home, you're all stressed out, and then you start craving either food or alcohol or drugs or spending money or something like that. But that normally comes from the fear. Like the fear is normally the thing that triggers it all. So I think that having a long-term focus is really, really important, because when you know what the long-term objective is, you can set effective goals, and they're stop-off points. Most people who aren't mission-driven are normally goal-driven, and they'll grind, but then they burn out. And then when they burn out, they self-destruct. When they self-destruct, they'll beat themselves up, and then they'll grind again. Now, that's if they are driven. The majority of society aren't really that driven. So there's sort of two categories of, I think, people in society. You've got people that are driven and know that they have something within themselves to want to push hard, to work hard, to make something of themselves. And then you've got most other people who just want everything to be easy. They don't really care about working hard, pushing, or anything like that. And I think the majority of society and the majority of the mental health industry are normally based on like the average line and below. So when I look at it, you've got what I call the average line or the mediocre line. If you're below that, then society normally wants to come along, pick you up, they help you, they nurture you, and they bring you back up to average. But when you start pushing hard, most people then misunderstand what it takes to actually achieve. So like I get told how lucky I am all the time because I've got all this great shit in my life, but they don't realize, like, in order to go to work and fire a whole bunch of people, that's mentally taxing. That's high stress, high pressure. In order to make sure that my staff get paid, sometimes I don't get paid. That's hard. Most people cannot comprehend what that's like. And so a lot of really driven people get misinterpreted or misunderstood, and they feel quite alone. They feel that no one really understands what they go through. But they're also the people that other people in society try to strive to be like. So they're essentially the inspiration of society, yet they don't get looked after. So if I guess in a way, if I'm a dropkick that wants to do nothing with my life, society keeps coming and propping me up and helping me and caring about me. But if you're someone who's achieving, no one really gives a shit. They'll look at you and say, hey, you've done a great job. You're so lucky. But they don't think about all the pressure and the stress and how consistent you've got to be and how adaptable, and like, you know, just at a drop of a hat, everything that you've once worked really, really hard for can just change and turn to absolute crap just like that. And you have to mentally deal with that. And that might mean 100-hour work weeks. That might mean firing a whole bunch of staff that have become your friends. How do you deal with that mentally and emotionally? All while your relationship's falling apart, your health is turning to shit, and you've got to get up every day and get to work, or if not, your business falls over and everyone else loses their job. Like, that's such an intense pressure that no one really understands. So I guess I tend to work with who our community is called the driven mofos. So they're driven people that want to achieve, but they need to have pillar one, the fulfillment part, right. If not, they keep burning out. Pillar two, they need to have a long-term vision and a long-term mission, which then they can set effective goals, because if not, they go through grind and burnout, grind and burnout, grind and burnout. And then finally, you need, I think, pillar three is the performance psychology. Now, I don't really talk about positive thinking or finding happiness or all that because I find that they're very short-term responses. What I find is that the most driven people that I've ever worked with and come across, including, billionaires and professional athletes and so on, I've been lucky enough to privately coach those types of people as well, and rich listers and so on. They normally tend to be pretty stable. And when I was studying physics and chemistry, if you look at almost everything in hard science, anytime there's a positive charge, it attracts a negative charge in order to stabilize. And so when I really thought about it, I kept thinking, do I want to be stable mentally or do I want to be positive? Because normally if you're negative, you want to be positive. But when you're positive, you've got a fear of being negative again. And so it creates these vicious cycles. Whereas driven people just get up and they just do stuff. That's it. And they're not positive. They don't care about happiness. Like, I personally don't care about being happy. But that doesn't mean that I'm unhappy. Most people misconstrue that because they think, well, if you're not happy, then you must be unhappy. But you're not. You're purposeful and you're fulfilled. And fulfillment and happiness are two different things. I think happiness leads to unhappiness and unhappiness leads to happiness and so on. And it becomes a cycle. I think all of our emotions are like a pendulum that swing back and forward. And so the more you crave positivity, the more you keep worrying about the negativity that happens inside your mind. And so it just keeps swinging. Whereas what I've found is, like, if you look at any hard science, positives attract the negative in order to stabilize. I want a stable mind. I want to feel more balanced. I want to feel more centered, because I think the best decisions aren't necessarily someone who's optimistic, and they're not normally from someone who's pessimistic. They're from someone who can see both sides and make an intelligent decision. Does that sort of answer the question? It's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot in there.
No, it does. That's a really great insight into it. And from a lot of successful people, I've heard the same thing of you just do things. It's like, don't be controlled by emotions, like positive mindset, as you say, happy. I've heard you guys talk about don't be obsessed with being happy. Like you say, it's just an emotion. If you're driven by emotions, you'll be emotional. You'll be affected by positive and negative emotions. So no, that's really interesting insight to hear that coming from you. Obviously, that's something you do all the time. So obviously you understand it very well. And I think we actually, last week, I was just speaking with my co-host Barry. I was speaking with him last week. We just chatted about mindset a bit, and we were talking about one of the main things that people could do to improve their mindset was having an actual plan, which I guess is kind of what you're saying with the goals. Like, people just stumble through life with just blindly, don't they? Really, most of all, and with no actual plan. And it's kind of no wonder that they end up not really getting anywhere.
Yeah. I think just on that, if you don't mind me interrupting for a second, with goals as well, goals can be a really tough thing because depending on your emotional state when you set a goal depends on how effective the goal is. So if you're like, most people go to motivation events and they get all excited and they get all pumped up. But when you're pumped up, you actually overemphasize your skill set. So you actually think that you can achieve more than the skills that you have. And so you tend to set the bar a lot higher than what you can naturally achieve in the time frame that you've created. And you compress time frames. So like, I used to go to motivation events and there'd be, guys and girls there that, for the last 5 years, they made, like, let's say $50,000 Australian. And then the year before they made 48. And then the year before that, they made 45. And so if you have a look at their trajectory, it's not sort of like a hockey stick curve. There's this just consistent couple of $1,000s growth per year. But then they go to a motivation event, they get all amped up, they slap their chest, they fist pump the air, they all hug each other. And so now they're elated and they're running under adrenaline and they're all pumped up. And so then they think, I'm highly skilled, I can easily do this. I'm going to become a millionaire by the next, in the next 12 months. So they set the goal. There's no plan. There's no strategy. The goal that they have set of the $1 million, they've essentially compressed the time frame that it would normally take them to, like, almost bare minimal. So they're in a rush. That then triggers an anxiety response. So they're anxious all the time. They're stressed out. They feel this, like, consistent pressure that they've got to achieve. And then they're going flat out all the time. But because of that, it creates so much tension in their body that then they have to escape. So then they have, like, self-sabotage patterns, self-destructive behaviors. They'll be overeating, over-drinking, taking drugs, sleeping heaps because they're burning out. Then when they burn out, they feel guilty because they should be achieving this, like, $1 million lifestyle in 12 months. So I think the state that you're in when you set goals is super important. Like, if you balance, you set balanced goals. If you're elated and excited, you set unrealistic goals. And if you're down and depressed, you think that nothing's going to ever happen and everything's too hard. And, it's going to take me 100 years to get anywhere. And so, yeah, I think you need to be more stable before you set goals in most cases. I hope that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that motivation, that's the exact word as well that I mentioned a lot, is that motivation, you can just ignore that. It's about discipline, not motivation. Like motivation, again, is just a feeling, comes and goes. Like you say, you go to an event, you're super motivated. 3 weeks later, I doubt you're feeling the same. It's about just discipline, just doing it no matter how you feel, and trying to train yourself to do that. And obviously, like you said, people need to get their mindset straight before they start making those plans and goals, or else they're going to make ridiculous goals that they can't achieve, like you said.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that. Go on, you go.
Oh, I think you've also got to be realistic with your value set that you have. Like, there are a lot of people out there who want to start a business because they want the lifestyle that a business offers, but they're not prepared to do the tough work and the challenging work because it's not part of their values. If I was a dad of 4 kids and my family was my highest value, and I also had a high value on physical health and wanting to go to the gym all the time, essentially I'm working to provide for my family. I want to spend time with my family and look after my health. It's going to be almost impossible, not impossible, but it's going to be almost impossible to then put in the time and the effort needed to get a business to a high level. If you were a self-employed person who could go out and do a job or whatever, you'd make okay money. But to become, in the top 1%, you have to essentially dedicate your life at the expense of your family, your friends, everything else. So if you're trying to do that and it's outside of your values, you're going to self-destruct. Whereas the people that I know, like the first thing that I do when I work with anybody is always get them super clear on their values, because that's going to determine whether they're going to be fulfilled doing something or not fulfilled. I love running a business. And so to me, working 80 hours a week, it's just what I do. Like, I've been working most of the day planning and setting things up for the team for the week. And my wife's the same. She's got a high value of it. So we talk about business, we work in the business. So it works for us. But a lot of our friends and family are like, you guys work too much. How can you work all the time? Well, what else would I rather be doing? Like, I'd rather be working than hanging out with family. But for my mum should rather spend time hanging out with family than she does working, because she's got a higher value on family than what I do. So it really comes down to your value structure. I think way too many people want to be like somebody else instead of just wanting to be the best that they can be, which then means that they're trying to run in someone else's lane. They're going to stuff that up wildly. And then when they do, it's just going to be another reason that they self-depreciate, beat the shit out of themselves, hate on themselves. They're going to lower their self-worth. Like, my whole thing is just be yourself. Like, be the best you can be. I work with dudes who are billionaires. I know that I'm building companies that might get to that. But at the same time, I don't have the same level of wealth creation in my value structure as what they do. It's my third highest value, not my first. So, yeah, you just got to be realistic about what you actually want in life instead of trying to chase others.
Yeah, that's true. It's, again, with what we're doing is it's kind of an overall thing. We're trying to improve people's lives, but mainly kind of looking at health and like diet, nutrition, and getting people optimal. And like you say, it's different for everyone. What's perfect and optimal for one person may not be optimal for another person, which I guess is the same thing as what you're saying there. And I would guess that most people as well, if you just sat them down and asked them what their values were, kind of their value system, I'm guessing a lot of people might struggle at first to actually even be able to say what their values are.
Yeah. There was a famous quote years ago that I heard, and this is sort of what put me on the path to this as well, and that I built a lot of my events around. It was Michelangelo when he was making or created the statue of David. Someone asked him, apparently, this was a story that I'd come across, but someone asked him, how do you carve such amazing sculptures? And they were pointing at the statue of David. And he said, it's easy. All I do is I take away all the rock that's not David. I think that most people in life, they know who they are. Like, if you look at a child, every child I've ever come across always expresses some form of greatness. Like, if they want to do something, they'll find a way of doing it. If they need to negotiate something, they'll negotiate. If they need to use their emotions or use their logic, they'll do it. They're very adaptable. They're very resilient. If they've got to keep trying something, they'll keep trying it until they get the outcome that they want. Whereas adults tend to lose that. And I think it gets beaten out of them through the schooling system and through parenting and so on. But I think that when you start trying to figure out who you are by looking at everybody else, the only way that you can figure it out is through trial and error. So you go, I think I might go to the gym and I think I might exercise. So you start exercising and then you self-sabotage because really you'd rather be at home hanging out with your partner because they're a high value, but you don't know that. So then you hate on yourself and you're at home with your partner, but that relationship's not going well because you're caught in your head hating on yourself, which then means you can't connect with them effectively. So now you've got a shitty relationship and poor health. Then you go to work and you're worried about your relationship not working and you're not going to the gym. So now you've got three things that aren't really working that well. Then you go and hang out with family. And when you're with family, you're still caught in your head trying to figure out why you keep sabotaging at the gym and stuffing up your gym program and why you're overeating. And so you can see that all this self-sabotage stuff that's going on is normally just feedback to tell someone that they're living outside of their lane. When you can get your values super clear, I know what I love to do because it's what I prioritize. And my calendar is essentially prioritized to my values. My morning routine is prioritized to my values because if I can wake up and do what my values dictate, I know that I'm going to be fulfilled for the rest of the day. And so I can just get on with doing what I need to do in the business, which is also one of my values. So I've essentially set up my life to live my values. If you don't know what your values are, you're using trial and error. You're trying to figure it out through other people's value systems. We've been lied to by people around us. So almost every mum who comes to my events, when they write down their values, they will put family as being their highest value. 90% of them are lying. And when I point it out to them and say, but hang on, why do you work an 80-hour week or a 70-hour week in your career, yet you only spend an hour a day properly with family? What does that tell you? You are really wanting to prioritize in life. And then they go, yeah, but because they think that with value structures that it's like, if I don't put family first, then that means that I don't love my family. But that's not the case. It's just saying if my career is going well, I'm a better mum. If my high values go well, I'm a better parent. So like my wife, I'm like number 6 or number 5 in her value structure. But I know if I can help her fulfill her top 5 values, she's a great person to be around. If not, she starts to internalize everything and get stressed out because her life feels like it's not working effectively. So when we start to be honest with ourselves and also each other about what values are really and that what we prioritize in life essentially determines what our values are. If someone's prioritizing their career over family, then it tells you that their career is a higher value than family. That shouldn't be, you shouldn't need to feel guilty, but most mums do, especially. Some dads do, but most mums do. And then they feel like ashamed that they've put that. But that's the reason why they keep self-sabotaging, self-destructing, beating themselves up, and why they're not as effective mum as what they could be, because they hate themselves instead of realizing that if I work and my career is great, my family also operate well. Also, I give all these, because of the financial situation, I can give my family more than some other people and so on. I think with every value and also every emotional state, there's benefits and there's drawbacks. There's goods and bads. My value structure works for me, but if someone else tried to live my life, they'd hate it. So I think, when it comes to values, honesty is really important, and your life demonstrates your values. It's not something you want it to be. It's the way that it is. And I think most people think that their values are something that they want, not what they are. Does that sort of answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you said there about honesty, that's a big thing. I think a lot of people, like you said, with the example of the mums, a lot of people would put their values as what they think people would expect their values to be, wouldn't they? As opposed to what they would actually be. We're always trying to fit in with society. And like you made it, when you started talking, I was thinking the exact same thing in my head that you said about that. I think it's the school that takes that out of kids, where kids will just be their own person, because school kind of tries to mold you all into the same person. I know you said you struggled at school. I mean, I got on fine at school, but I was not a fan of school. I'm still not. I don't like the whole thing. The whole school system is, I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it's good for kids. I think it gets rid of creativity. It gets rid of, originality, and it tries to make everyone become the same person. I think that's really what kills it. If someone was to say, I need to find my value system, sit down and start with that, is there any kind of tips that you kind of start with for people, or is it literally just trial and error?
No, there's definitely different structures and different tools that you can use. So just to clarify, because I want to answer the question, but I want to clarify something first. Okay. Yeah. When we're talking about values, if you type in axiology, which is the field of study of values, it essentially is made up of 2 key components. One is the question, where do I feel valued? So this is where we feel value within our own life. And then the second one is, where does society value us? Because normally the things that you're extremely gifted at, or what you'd call gifted, is actually something that's really important to you that you've actually worked on and that you focus on. So like, I know, having worked with, I used to train coaches and teach coaches, we've got psychologists who come to our events, all of that sort of stuff. I think way outside the box about human behavior. But what I found was that when I'm around other coaches, normally most of the time I'll outperform them. It's not because of they don't work harder than me. It's just because my brain filters the world different than the way they filter it. When someone's talking to me, I'm essentially most of the time analyzing value structures in the way that they communicate. I'm analyzing mental and emotional imbalances, and I'm seeing the imbalances that are going on. And you can hear that through their languaging, through the words that they use. And then you can watch the way that they're using their body and stuff, and it starts to tell you whether it's true or not true. So I've naturally done that even since I was a young kid. So once I found the field that I actually loved, I thrived in that field. So when we're talking about values, the reason why values are so important, because it's not only is it just an idea of what we want life to be, it's essentially, where does society value us the most, because we're extremely talented at the skill set we have and the way that our brain filters reality. Our value system is a gating mechanism for our senses. So if you've got someone with a high value of wealth creation, they'll walk around and they see money everywhere. They see opportunities to create wealth. You can walk next to someone. I've done this at my events. I've walked next to someone who pointed out all the cafes and everything that all had for lease signs or for sale signs on them. And they pointed out and they said, look at, how much businesses are struggling. I didn't see businesses struggling. I saw opportunities to create businesses that could go in there to be able to make money because they were shit at what they did in business. At the same time, the same day I'm talking about, a red Ferrari drove past. They didn't even notice the Ferrari, and they didn't see the opportunity for the buildings to then be turned into businesses that can work effective. They just saw the struggling business owners. So my value system, or my value structure, saw something that the other person didn't see. I could try to train that into the person, and I could work for the next 10 years, but they wouldn't pick it up just like that, like someone else who has a high value of those things. You get a mum whose highest value is their kids, and they notice things about the kids that doctors, healthcare professionals, no one else notices, because they pick up those little micro cues and all that stuff that other people don't. And even a mum with a lower value on family still won't pick that stuff up, because their brain is finely tuned to see those things, to hear things, because that's how their brain filters reality. So when we live our values, not only do we see the world differently, but it essentially tells us where we're most valuable within society as well. So I make the most amount of money coaching and leading, and I'm probably in the top 0.1% in this country, in Australia, as far as income earners, because of what I do. It's not just based on the skill set and the amount of hours I've dedicated. It's also because I just see the world differently. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
In order to understand values, it's like, where do others perceive that they would pay me well in order to do something, because they see that I stand out above others? Then also, if I just listen to my brain, what am I always thinking about? What do I tend to dedicate my life to? What do I bring conversations back to and talk about all the time? What do I notice in the world that other people tend not to notice? Where do other people say, hey, you're really good at that? All of those things, if you start piecing that together and thinking about it, it normally directs you back to your values. Another thing that I do is I get them to write out what a week looks like, a standard average week. And if you get someone to write out their week hour by hour, or even in 30-minute blocks, then you relate the task to the value. So if I'm working all day in business and I'm working for 10 hours, I could put down marketing, sales, branding, but those things are also part of my third highest value is business and wealth creation. So they all relate to that area. In the morning, I normally wake up and I go for a walk or I stretch. So I've got a high value on physical movement. So those things are really important to me. So yeah, there's sort of two options that you can sort of think about to get clear on your values. A lot easier than trial and error. Trial and error might take you your whole life and you might not figure it out. That sort of stuff there, like, we can normally figure it out pretty quickly in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But they're just some little tips.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I think I've kind of probably found that myself with how I've ended up getting into trying to get deep into kind of diet and health and nutrition and that. It's always been something I've been interested in, around health and diet especially. And then the last year or so, or a bit longer, I've really been getting into it. And it's, you know, I think about it a lot, talk about it a lot, probably, if you ask people who I speak to. And yeah, so that's probably, without me really even noticing, that's probably pretty high up on my values there. So that's what I'm looking to do and to use that. So that's really interesting, because I guess from how you're describing it there is that a lot of people probably, that their values are kind of clear to them with how they act and how they live, but they probably haven't realized it. I guess you're just getting them to realize that this is what you value more by what you prioritize and do without even thinking about it.
Yeah, I think most people actually live their values. They're just unclear on them because they're trying to live through somebody else's lenses, I guess. So, you know, like I was just out earlier with a guy who is fairly big on TikTok, and we were just having a bit of a chat. And, you know, for him, he does TikTok because it's just what he does. Now, he did that when he wasn't making any money, and now he makes a lot of money out of it, and he's still doing it. So he's monetized something that's valuable to him. So he loves doing like creative sort of comedy and all of that stuff. And he's just combined it into a career that he loves. Now, if you said to him, would you do TikTok for free? Well, he did. You know, I started this business doing mental performance and like mindset and all that stuff. I was running that at a loss for, you know, probably the first couple of years. So it's not that I would, you know, would I do it for free? Yeah. I mean, I did. That's why I'm where I am today. I think way too many people are looking for like the shortcut, and they're trying to be something that they're not as well. So they're looking at somebody else. Like I have people these days, I'm fortunate enough now to make good money. So I've got 2 supercars. I have people come up to me all the time and they're like, you're so lucky that you've got this. And I'm like, man, if only you knew, like if you knew the amount of relationship problems that it caused going to my wife and saying, hey, I'm leaving my career as a personal trainer, which I'm making good money at. Now, we're only just starting to date around that time. And I'm going out to do this. And I was making $270,000 Australian back 11 years ago doing personal training before the whole like influencer stuff. That was like in the top, you know, 5% of income earners in the country. To leave that to then go into something where I had the chances of making zero, that was huge. But we did it, and then we turned that into a multi-million-dollar company. So yeah, I think that really everyone lives their values. It's just that we get blinded by the glasses of looking at someone else and thinking, I would rather be doing what they're doing. And I've had a lot of people who've been around me who want to become a coach, and because they see the lifestyle that I have and the cars and all that stuff, and they go, I want to do that. So then they go out and they try to emulate it. You watch them, they stop and start. It's sort of like a goal for a while, and then something else grabs their attention because they never really wanted to do it anyway. They weren't committed to it. They were committed to the lifestyle, but the lifestyle is a byproduct of the effort. Like I really don't give a shit about any of, I mean, the cars and all that stuff are a reflection of what I love, which is inspiring people. But in saying that, if you took them away, I would still keep doing what I'm doing. That has nothing to do with me as a person. It's just something that I enjoy. I think cars are normally a waste of money anyway, but I love cars. I grew up with them. So do you know what I mean? Like I'm probably sort of mixing everything up, but it's like you've got to figure out what your path is, figure out your lane, and then just run in your lane. There's going to be heaps of people that are going to jump in your lane. There's going to be people who try to emulate what you do. But I think part of life is trying to figure out who you are and why you're different. And I'm not sure that we ever figure that out, but we can definitely get close to figuring it out so we can win a lot more. And I think understanding your values is part of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think instant gratification is one of the biggest diseases in the world today. It's just everyone has such short-term mindset. Like you say, you see a successful person. What do they do? Oh, they do that. I want to do that. But like you say, they don't think about the work and they won't put the work in. So yeah, finding what you're actually passionate about, what's a higher value for you is that, and then concentrating on that. But yeah, long term, I always try and encourage long term thinking, whether it's with health or wealth or whatever. It's all about long term, and I just find that nowadays, 99% of people are short term, and they want this and they want it now. And if it takes longer than a couple of days to get there, they'll give up and move on to the next.
I think that it's also really important, like especially in our sort of field when we're helping people, that it is really important to have those conversations, because I think most people have tried short-term stuff, so they know it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that in the moment when they're feeling stressed and afraid and scared, and they think that, like, let's say it's weight loss. If I can just lose weight, I'm going to feel better about myself. But the truth is, the weight gain was never about feeling. I mean, the weight gain itself was actually about feeling better about yourself. That's why you put food in your mouth consistently and got fat. So it's nothing really changes. Like, something that I talk about all the time is nothing really changes. When I'm working with a business owner and they're like, yeah, but if I can just achieve this, then, and I'm like, anytime someone says if then, do you mind if I swear on this podcast?
No, it's fine.
If someone says if then, they're normally fucked, because they're waiting for one day in the future, which they think it's going to change something. And the truth is, nothing's going to change, because the only time that things change is when we actually commit to making the change. So if we just make the fucking change, then it's changed. So, like, if I'm unhappy with my body image, I can start looking at my body image and going, actually, you know what? I think that I need to look after my body better. If I start looking after my body better and I treat it better and I feel better about myself, I'm probably going to eat better. But if I keep treating myself like shit, I'm probably going to feel like shit, which then means I'm going to eat shit, which then reinforces that whole pattern again. So it's sort of like, if we can just shift our mindset of, like, not if then I'll, it's now. Now's the change, right? That's it. I'm going to treat myself better. I'm going to talk to myself better. And then from there, the byproduct is I'm probably going to eat better. And if I eat better, then I'm probably going to start to feel better. And if I feel better, then I'm probably going to keep talking to myself better. And then if I talk to myself better, I'm going to feel better. And if I feel better, then I'm going to eat better. But I think it's like, I feel like shit, so therefore I'm going to eat like shit. And because I feel and I eat like shit, I talk to myself like shit. And it's just this big vicious cycle that people stay trapped in. And then they go, all right, I'm going to lose weight. So they want to do a quick weight loss challenge or some sort of an immediate gratification thing where they can get short results. But that's never been the problem. The problem isn't that they need a diet. The problem is that they've got to stop treating themselves like shit, because that mindset is going to be the thing that makes everything spiral out of control. Like, just treat yourself better right now. Talk to yourself a little bit better. It's not as bad as probably what you think it is. So now let's talk a little bit better, and now we'll make better decisions. And when we make better decisions, we'll feel better. And when we feel better, then we'll, and then we're in a different cycle. Apologies. I really notice that a lot with business owners. They're really bad for thinking that everything's going to change in the future. But all that happens is they just keep working their ass off, and then they get to the goal that they wanted, and then they just keep working their ass off because the goal just keeps getting reset in different directions. And they're just these miserable fucks for their whole life. Like, that's it. They've worked hard in order to create misery, yet they've got all the stuff. So now they've got heaps of money and heaps of stuff, yet they still hate everything.
Yeah.
It was never about the stuff. The stuff was never meant to make them feel better in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's why, people say, oh, money won't buy happiness, and, possessions won't, which they won't. But obviously it's about what you do. Like you said, people say it's not the destination, it's the journey, isn't it? If you make the change and go, like, a really basic example, I'm sure my wife won't mind me using her, is when we first got together, she was really got obsessed with eating right and losing weight. But she'd say, if I get down to like this weight, I'll be happy. Then she'd get to there and she'd want to lose more and more. And then like a few years later, when we had kids and whatever, and she's, of a higher weight, she looked back at how she was then and think, oh, I was so thin, why didn't I appreciate it? And I said, well, it's because your, like you say, your happiness, not happiness, but your satisfaction should be from making the change in your life, not your actual goal. People need to just change the way they look at stuff, which I think applies to nearly everything nowadays. That it's just what people look at stuff completely wrong, don't they? Really, with their whole mindset. It's all short term. It's all give me now. Things like TikTok and Instagram, people have got like a 2-second attention span, and then it's about, as you say, I think that's, if people can find their actual values, things they value, and build off that, that's going to give them a good solid base.
Yeah. So like, I think most people are always waiting for some point for things to change, instead of, like you said, it's the process. I just reflect back to my supercars and the way that people treat me when I'm out and about. A lot of people come up and they go, well, you're lucky because of this. But and I also get judged. Like, people go, oh, it's probably rented and it's probably this and money doesn't make you happy and all of that sort of stuff, right? Like, he's probably making up and compensating for some stuff, or he's probably trying to impress others. The truth is, I never bought the car for anybody. I bought the car for me, and it was a byproduct of all the effort that I put in. So if I had to sell the car, I'd sell the car. It's just like, to me, it's not a reflection of my self-worth. And I didn't buy it to impress others. I bought it for my values, essentially. My highest value is teaching, learning, and coaching. Do you know how awesome it is? Everywhere I go, little kids come up and it just blows their mind. Like, I drive down the street and I take even some of our event attendees have become good friends, or, even some people on social media sometimes I get talking to them. I'm like, hey, if you want, I'll come pick you up and we'll go have a coffee. So I use the car as number one, a way to connect. It's awesome for inspiration. Like I was out earlier and little kids will just stand there and they wave as you go past and people take photos and all that stuff. Like, it makes people smile. I mean, it also pisses people off too, but it makes people just smile. And it's like, it gives them this sense of like awe and like, wow, if I can do that, and I can have, like, I get a lot of people who come up and they're like, what do you do? And so it's a conversation starter and I can talk about what we do and how we do it and all that sort of stuff. It's got like my number plates are Mr. Mojo. And then on the back, it's got like Mojo Performance. So like it's essentially a reflection of my values, but the process created it. It wasn't, I'm going to work hard so that I can buy a supercar. It was just like, I've got the cash now. I might as well just go and have fun and buy something that I really enjoy. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I was going to say, if that was your entire goal, was I'm just going to work hard so I can buy a supercar, then by the time you bought it, you'd probably be like, well, is that it? But as you say, you've got different values and goals, and then that's just the byproduct that, oh, hey, like with health and fitness, you concentrate on eating right, looking after yourself, and then you get a bit down the road, oh, hey, I'm in great shape. Well, that's good. I'll just carry on with how I'm living.
100%. I think that it just life works so much better that way as well. Like, I remember a story years ago, and this is what sort of set me on that path. Years and years ago, I had two friends. One of them still pretty close with, the other one I haven't seen for ages. But I really remember this story, and it etched in my mind. And it was that one of the guys who lives on the other side of the country, he went out and bought a Ferrari. And he was a young guy, and I was like, wow, you've got a Ferrari. And I was at like, deer in the headlights, like, wow, that's amazing. And I said, like, how's the car? And he was like, I hate it. And I was like, why? Why do you hate it? And he goes, everywhere I go, people call me asshole, dickhead, wanker. Like, I just get abused all the time. I'm always afraid that someone's going to scratch it. And he's like, I just hate it. He's like, I pull up at the traffic lights and someone wants to race me. It's just this magnet for idiots. And I was like, okay, cool, fair enough. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I'd never thought about that. And then I caught up with another friend a couple of weeks later, and he just bought, when Lamborghini Aventadors first came out, he bought one of the first ones here in the state. And I said, oh, how do you enjoy your car? And he goes, I love it. And I said, do you ever get given shit? Like, do people just like talk negative and all that? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, but I don't care. He's like, I was doing a U-turn in the car, and he said there was this old lady on the footpath who's like, nice driving, dickhead, or something. And he goes, the window was already down. And so he goes, I just yelled back out, you wish you were me, and then just took off back down the road. And then that was it. Like, he didn't care. Like, he loves cars, and he's like, he doesn't care whether people like him or don't like him, because he buy the car for people to like him. But what I realized was the other friend thought, if I can buy a Ferrari, then people will like me. When you do that, it's like the worst decision ever, because you never bought the car for you bought it for somebody else. Yeah. And I think any time in our life that we do things to impress others, it never works out the way that we want it to work out. And if that's in the area of health, I used to work with a lot of the top bodybuilders in the country, and there'd be a lot of sports models and fitness models and all that. They'd come in, they would look phenomenal. And they would walk in my office, and the next second they're just breaking down mentally and emotionally. Like, they're essentially having almost like a PTSD breakdown. And they're going, I hate myself. I feel fat. I feel disgusting. I was sitting in the car and I'm like binge eating food out the back of like, the supermarket because I don't want anyone to know, like, I eat chocolate and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, wow, these people like mentally fucked up. Like, but on the outside, they're essentially training and exercising to get other people's appreciation and attention and all that sort of stuff. So their self-worth is determined by others. It's not determined by them. Then they get up on stage and they're getting judged by a whole bunch of people. And it's this disgusting cycle that they go through where they get up on stage, people judge them, but also all their friends and family and people around them say, wow, you look amazing. So they attach this idea of, I've got to look that way in order to have some sort of self-worth and some value, and it gives me validation, all this for my body. But the truth is they have body image issues. They hate themselves. They don't like the way that they look. And they've trained so hard to get to this place. But even when even if they don't win, or even if they do win, there's always stuff that's not good enough yet. And so they're in this like, I'm not good enough, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm horrible, no matter what their body fat percentage is. Like, we're talking, these women were some of the most beautiful women in the country, and they were still like, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm horrible, I feel disgusting about myself. And yeah, it's just such a vicious cycle. So yeah, I think you've just got to do things for you within your own life. And sometimes that comes at the expense of, relationships. And sometimes it comes at the criticism of others as well. Like, I get criticized all the time on socials, but I don't give a shit because I'm living my life. They can live their life. I don't care. Someone doesn't like me. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got to, basing your self-worth off other people's opinions will never end well. It's you've got to do it for you, like you say, and then some people will, they will also appreciate that, and some people won't, as you say. I think cutting off toxic people in your life and cutting off toxic relationships is one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself. There's always people that be around you that will try and drag you back down to their level and suck the life out of it, and you just got to be like, no, you know what? There's no need for that. I'll find what makes me happy, do that, and the people around me that actually care about me being happy will make them happy as well. And the people who are going to try and pull you down for that are people that you don't need in your life anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes I ask people, like, I have people come up to me and they're like, they have this emphasis of like being a kind person or a nice person. And I'll ask them the question. I'll go, so when you're talking about being this kind person, are you talking about internally or externally? Mm-hmm. And that normally screws them up, because sometimes when we're kind to others, we're absolute assholes to ourselves. Yeah. But sometimes when we're assholes to others, we're actually nice and kind to ourselves. So a lot of society lives in this external, superficial world without realizing that there is a cost to everything that we do. And sometimes what we express externally is a compensation mechanism for what's going on internally. If we want others to respect us and appreciate us and care about us and love us, we can be the over-nurturing, kind, nice individual who, looks after everybody else. But that comes at a cost. And that is, we don't look after ourselves. We treat ourselves like shit. We beat ourselves up. We mentally and emotionally drain ourselves. We've got no boundaries, all of that sort of stuff. And you watch those people go through these big mental and emotional cycles. Whereas what I found is, like, once I started developing my own self-worth and knowing what I wanted to do, I have people all the time like, I've got a birthday party. I've got this. You should come and do this. You should do that. Hey, I've got this business opportunity. You should get involved. I'm like, hey, the answer is no. It's a no. It's a no. It's a no. It's a no. And sometimes people say to me, like, don't people think that you're an asshole? And I'm like, probably. But I would just, like, it's not that I want to be an asshole to them. It's just that, like, I have a life. I'm going to die one day. And probably the majority of the world is not even going to give a shit. I'm just going to end up another person in history that was once alive, and there's been hundreds of billions of them. So while I'm here, I just want to do me. But if that means saying no to someone and someone else is upset, them being upset has nothing to do with me. If I treat them right, I'm not going to do anything that my intention isn't to hurt people, but some people might be hurt by my actions that I take because I'm doing the right thing by me. That's just what happens sometimes.
Yeah, learning to say no is quite difficult for a lot of people. I know a lot of people that are just people pleasers, and I'm constantly saying to them, just sometimes you just got to say no, especially because those same people that you bend over backwards to try and please and do everything from, the minute you need something from them, they're gone. It's not even a two-way street. But yeah, you've got to put yourself first to really to be happiness, to be satisfied. You've got to put yourself first. And I don't think, sometimes people think that will make them really selfish and will negatively affect the people around them. But I think you kind of alluded to it a couple of times before, is that if you look after yourself and you make yourself the best person you can be, that's actually going to be a positive benefit on the people around you, not negative. People kind of think that it's a whole selfish thing and it's negative to them.
Yeah. I don't think you can be selfish without being selfless, and you can't be selfless without being selfish. Like, I don't know anyone who's ever impacted the world in a empowering way who hasn't been selfish for the sake of being selfless. Like, they're sort of intertwined into each other, like it's part of the same game. Like, I know that the more I look after myself, the more I'm able to look after others. The less I look after myself, the worse I am, because the more tired I am, the more irritable I am, the more snappy I am, the more unfocused I am, the more distracted I am. So like even at my events, sometimes I'll just say to people like, you know, after my events, I'm like, right, I'm going to go just chill in my room, hang out with Jess. We'll just eat some food, you know, probably on the bed of a hotel room or something. And then I'm going to bed. Like that's how it is. And people want to hang out and people want to do stuff. And I'm like, it's not, you know, I've got to do me. Like I'm no good to anyone if my battery's running at 1%. Something that you mentioned before, which might help, is sometimes if someone is doing stuff where they don't want someone else to perceive them as a certain way, if you just quickly ask them and say, you know, is that internally or externally? It normally catches them and they catch themselves out. Like I do with kindness. When someone's like, I'm a kind person. I'm like, is that internally or externally? And then you watch them, they're like, oh shit, because they're not kind to themselves, they're kind to everybody else.
Yeah.
So when you ask them that, they're like, oh, and then they realize that they have both parts of themselves. It's just one they express and the other one they suppress. And so I think like people who, when someone says like, I'm not selfish, I'm like, is that to others or is that to yourself? Like, how do you view that?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to use that. Yeah, I'm going to throw that one out, see how people respond to that, because that is so true. Like, you know, you trying to be kind to everyone else and horrible to yourself. Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, let me know how you go with it, because I have that with like the positive thinking people. They will come to me and they're like, I know you talk shit about positive thinking and whatever. And I'm like, but what do you mean positive? And they're like, well, I'm a positive person. I'm like, okay, internally or externally? Like, are you positive on the inside or are you positive outside? Like, do you over exaggerate it and then beat yourself up on the inside? And they're like, you watch them, they just like, it's almost like their whole brain just scatters. You can almost watch their head like they don't know what to do. But the truth is, like, from what I've been able to sort of understand, and this comes from there was a famous philosopher called Schopenhauer, and he said we become ourselves to the extent at which we see ourselves in others or we see others within ourselves. So when we say, you know, someone's being selfish and we criticize that person for being selfish, what we try to do is we create a shadow of selfishness. And Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud spoke about this as well. Carl Jung spoke about, he's a famous psychiatrist. He spoke about the shadow. And if you go back and you read old philosophy, they say the upright person casts no shadow. So an upright person stands straight between both sides. Whereas when you're self-righteous, you lean to one side. And the more you lean to one side, the more you cast a shadow. Most people spend their life trying to hide their shadow. And their shadow is the parts of themselves that they don't want to own. And most people will convince themselves that they don't have that part when the truth is that they do. Mm-hmm. So when someone says, I could never hurt anyone, I'm like, piss off. You hurt yourself all the time. You treat yourself like shit. I'm sure if I ask your kids, does mum treat you well all the time? They would say no. Like, it's just people create these deluded perceptions that they could never treat anyone bad or that they would never hurt anyone. Or they say things like, I'm always positive. And I'm like, get out of town. But the more someone thinks like that, the bigger the shadow they cast and the more deluded they become in their own self. Also, they're easy to manipulate. So if you want to manipulate someone who thinks that they're kind all the time, you can just say to them, can you do this for me? I know that you're a really kind person and I know that you do that. And they would do it because they don't want to be seen as unkind. So they're easy to manipulate. And if you have a look, charities, governments, all that sort of shit, they use manipulation tactics to get people to do what they want because most people are so easily manipulated because they hide parts of themselves. If someone comes up to me and says something like, you know, hey, I need this from you and I know you don't want to be seen as an asshole or whatever, and I know you'll do this because you're a kind person, I'm like, I'm kind and an asshole. So like, the answer is no. Like, I don't care if you think I'm an asshole because I know I'm an asshole. Whereas when you own that part of yourself, you own your shadow. And that's what Carl Jung spoke about in his shadow work. Does that sort of make sense? Is you've got to own those dark parts of yourself that you keep trying to hide.
Yeah, no, that does. That definitely does. Again, that's really interesting stuff there and makes a lot of sense. I think one of the most freeing things anyone can do is just reach that point where they stop caring what everyone else thinks. I think everyone's too obsessed with what people think. And once you can get to that point where you think, you know, I don't care, I'll do what I want to, that's an amazing feeling and something that everyone should look to do. I've found I wouldn't say I was ever super obsessed with what people thought, but everyone maybe is to an extent. And then I just reached the point where I was like, why am I worried about what other people think? That I need to do what's right for me, and I'll do it. And if someone else looks at it and thinks, oh, what's he doing that for? What difference does it make to my life? I don't care. People just got to get past that.
I 100% agree with that. 100% agree. It was probably the most freeing thing because I used to be the opposite. I was someone who highly obsessed and worried about what other people thought. Maybe it was just because I never grew up with those friends or whatever, and so I tried to always fit in. Then when I did fit in, I realized that probably isn't the best space either, because then you become part of a group and you've got to do what the group want you to do, not what you want to do. And then I think I sort of figured out how to lead myself better. And then that's when I became both a leader in business and in what we do. But you just got to own those parts of yourself. And I think way too many people are so afraid of I call it the Jesus complex, where too many people try to think that they're walking on water and they're a Jesus-like figure where they don't want to get anything wrong. They don't want to be criticized. They want to feel like they're this perfect person, and they judge other people for it, which then reinforces like, if I do these things, I'm going to get judged. Whereas like I tell people all the times at my events, like I get a lot of people come up to me and they go, you're an inspiration. You do all this great thing. Like I've looked up you for ages. And I always say to them, like, do not look up to me. I'm just a normal person who has an extremely good skill set at one thing. I'm shit at 99% of things. I just have a skill set that is good in one area. Now, if you went and looked at me, I would fail in most things, but I'm just good at the things that I focus on because that's the things that I love. You're also good at things that you love. That's why you need to commit to those things. And you have everything that I have. You've got a set of values. I have a set of values. You've got a mission. I have a mission. You've got goals. I have goals. Go and live those things instead of looking up to me and thinking that I've got it all figured out. I don't. If I had life figured out, there'd be no point of living. I'm trying to figure it out. You're trying to figure it out. Everyone's trying to figure it out. So just fucking get on with it. And then when they do that, I think it frees their mind up that they have to have everything always figured out. They've got to have everything right. It also creates this stupid idea of like an imposter syndrome where, I have to have everything figured out before I can do anything, but it just traps people. Whereas like, just improve every day, just get a little bit better. You'll make mistakes. I do stupid shit. I self-sabotage and I'm like the mental performance expert, right? But if I look back 10 years ago, what I used to do back then is nothing like I do now. Now it's like that much compared to like that much. And compared to the average population, like I've done pretty well. So like, I think our job should be to just get better and to improve and to understand ourselves more, not look up to others, don't look down upon others, just own your shit and just keep going and just try to be a little bit better every day. And it's so freeing. Like instead of trying to be this perfect person that has everything figured out, no one can judge, no one can criticize. Like, I don't even think it's possible to be that person that most people are trying to be.
No, I agree. It's that whole comparison thing. You spoke about before, like, someone looks at Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi and thinks, oh, they're so great at football. Why can't I play football like them? So, well, you've just got, that's not your thing. You might be a computer whiz and you could do amazing things at that. Like you say, people got to stop comparing. Like, okay, if that person's done well, then they're successful. Good for them. Look at what you're good at. Like you say, it's that, I think you got it with the shiny object syndrome, wasn't it, earlier, that someone's successful there. So I'll try that. Like, just no, stop. Find out what you're actually good at, what you have as a high value, and concentrate on that and be the best at it that you can be. You don't need to be someone else. Like you said, that comparison, that putting people on a pedestal and thinking, oh, if only I could be like this. Just be like that in your niche, whatever that is. And finding that, which is what everyone needs to try and do, which is that's what I've kind of feel that I've found with the health and nutrition and stuff like that. I've always enjoyed helping people, probably, similar to you. I enjoy helping people, feel good about helping people, and that's somewhere where I have good knowledge in it. I understand it, and I really feel I can make a good difference to people's lives. So that's what I really want to do. And I would say, in looking at your system and stuff, I would say that's pretty high on my values list, which I'm going to have to go through and try and get my exact values list now after speaking to you. But I'd say that's high on it. So I think that's what people need to do, is find, like you say, find what you're good at, what you value, and just concentrate on improving that. Don't worry about everyone else.
I'm pretty sure if you just go to my Facebook page, I'm pretty sure, like, I go through values reasonably regularly. You'll probably, in the last 6 months, you'll see me do like a talk on or something like that. That'll help heaps as well. Yeah, just shoot me some stuff on like Instagram or whatever. Just shoot me a reminder. This week's pretty busy, but after that, I'll see if I've got some stuff lying around. I'll just flick it to you and you can go through and try and figure them out.
Yeah.
I'll help you out with it.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. I'd appreciate that. I think I'll definitely get them lined up. Like you say, but things like that, they kind of, when we speak about it, it sounds so obvious that get that thing lined up and it will help, but people don't think of it until you're told it. Like everything you say makes perfect sense, but no one's doing it, until someone comes along and tells them. So it's definitely I'll be interested to get into that and try and keep improving myself as well.
No, that's awesome. Just a quick question. What was it that triggered health for you? What was the what was like the turning point that just made you go, you know what, health's the thing for me?
I've always been interested in health. I've always been into sport, and kind of fitness, growing up. So I've been interested in it, but I wasn't sort of in depth as I was. And as I kind of got older, as happens to lots of people, as I started to get older and I was busy with work, and I got married and we had kids, and your health starts to go down in your priorities. It's kind of starts to get lost. And then when I actually originally started the podcast with a friend of mine a year or so ago, just for fun. And he was really into health and stuff. And after a while, he didn't really have time to do it. So I carried on myself. But I really began to look into it more. And as I started to look into it, I just basically found that 99% of what we're taught about health and nutrition is actually completely wrong. And I began to relearn it and learn how it actually works and what a difference it can make. And then I began to sort of take back control of my own health and see the amazing results I got. And then I began to kind of see how it could help other people, and been researching it and looking at how, there's lots of doctors and stuff out there using it and diet to really help people. And I just began to think that's something I could really, you could make a huge difference. There's tons of people nowadays living with terrible health conditions that are massively limiting their life. And actually, just by changing their diet, they could completely cure that. No medication, normal life. And I just thought, that's something that can really make a difference. And I enjoy it. I like learning about it. So that was maybe a gradual turning point for me, as opposed to just one. But that was where I kind of got started from.
No, that's really cool. I mean, shit, most Australians need it. Like, I think at the moment, 60% of Australians, or 60-something% are obese or overweight. So, it's there's definitely a lot more overweight people than what there used to be. That's for sure. Yeah,
it's an epidemic. I know in the US, I think it's about 70% as well. I don't actually know what it is in the UK, but probably not far off. It's not great here either. So yeah, and you've got chronic conditions on the rise, like autoimmune conditions and Crohn's and colitis and diabetes and all that stuff, which can all be cured by diet. So yeah, we're going to try and help as many people as we can change their life, and that's what I think I find fulfillment in. So going to look to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time today. That's been really, really interesting talking to you. You've made a ton of really interesting points. So, like I say, some of them I'm going to go away and put into action myself as well, and hopefully the listeners are going to. And do you want to just give a little shout out to any of your social media, website, where people can find you?
Yeah, if you just Google Michael Mojo, it'll come up with my socials or any of our website. We're just going through a bit of a branding change at the moment, just with the Institute and stuff like that. So the website, I think, is about to change the domain and everything like that. But if you type in Michael Mojo, it will come up, or Mojo Human Performance, or just Mojo Performance Institute. It'll come up on there. All of my social medias are Michael Mojo 00. I've got a podcast for business owners called The Underestimated Entrepreneur, where I go through a whole bunch of like business and mindset hacking tips and tools just to keep business owners from going crazy and like hopefully helping them to run their business and lifestyles more effectively. And just talking about a lot of the stuff that I've learned over the years as well, working with rich listers, professional athletes, also everyone from, crazy cases that I've had to deal with. So there's some interesting stuff in there I've had to work with, or I've got sent people from the military with PTSD and had to work with them. And the results we've got, I think, were a lot better than what they were getting through their normal forms of therapy. So, there's I talk about that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, that's all there. But if you Google my name, it'll come up.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. I'd encourage people to do that. And then just before you go, I'm just going to give one last little question. I just want to know if you can think of one, like what's one of the maybe the craziest or the best kind of what would you call it, like changes you've seen? Like someone's come to you and you've been able to make like an unbelievable change. Is there one you could kind of pick out?
There's not one. There's a lot, but when I say a lot, I mean like there's been more that I can count on my hands and feet with the changes, but they've been like really crazy cases that I wasn't expecting, because we run events and stuff. We get sort of all different types of people come through. But I remember dealing with a PTSD case where a guy was in the military and his PTSD was caused from having to go out and essentially and pick up dead bodies in the ocean from people whose boat had sunk. And the story was pretty crazy. He picked up this person who was face down, and as he rolled her over, it was actually a mother holding on to the kids, and they were all dead, obviously. And he said, when I went to pick them up, because I'd been submersed in water, it was like leaving a chicken in water for a week, and essentially the bones pulled out of the joints and everything, and just he said it was a mess, and that's what triggered his PTSD. So it was like this really traumatic case for him. But he'd been getting electric shock therapy. He'd tried all different stuff. He was heavily medicated. And we went through and used some of the mental balancing techniques that we've created based on, it's a lot of it's science. So I go on and study a lot of the heavy science as well, hence why we get doctors and medical professionals and so on. But this is not common sort of stuff and not common therapy. But from his case, I remember he actually realized in the moment that it was actually pushing him to live his values. And from there, he balanced out the PTSD. So he messaged me and said, I'm getting sleep. I'm not getting the flashbacks. And he actually said, I'm grateful for the experience, because I realized like it reminded me to make sure we look after families, and he was in the military. And that's what we're doing. We're saving people. We're helping them. But he said, I really want to go back and study psychology, which he was able to do just because of it being through the military and so on that his PTSD was created. He was able to go back to university, study, be paid to do it. And now he's working with ex-army veterans who have PTSD and mental health issues and things like that. So I think that the life that he perceived was lost was also the thing that gave him his life back. But now he's been able to go out there and save a lot of other lives as well because of that incident. So I don't think in his case he sees it as being a trauma. He sees it as being a part of his journey that has led him to do something great within his own life and actually save other people's lives. So yeah, that was sort of a big one that stuck in my mind. I've had a few sort of big cases of that sort of stuff. Not that that's what I promote that I do. It's just that I have the tools to be able to help. I'm actually creating some stuff at the moment for the emergency services with the ambulance and the fire department and the police department, because we've had a few PTSD cases come through from there, or post-traumatic stress. And they've got good results. So they've wanted to use our tools and create a charity where they can then teach that. And so they're starting to use my methods in that. So I'm helping them to do a charity that goes out there and helps them. So yeah, they're probably some of the bigger cases, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. He went full circle, and and that just emphasizes the point of your mindset and how you frame things. Like once he framed it the right way, like you say, suddenly it was something he could use for positive. It really kind of.
I think. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you. There's a bit of
no,
a delay.
It's all right. It's all right. I was just saying it emphasizes the importance. That was all. I was done.
I really think that life just keeps giving us stuff that most humans perceive is in the way, but I really think that it's on the way if you just know how to analyze it and utilize it. Like the things that I used to think were the things that were holding me back were actually the things that were pushing me forward. And also like my fears and my worries and the uncertainties that I had were actually the things that were helping me to analyze stuff better so that I could achieve more, not the things that were trapping me. Yeah. So I think that most things are on the way, not in the way, but it just depends on how you use it and whether you've got the right tools and the skill sets to then be able to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, I love that. Things are not in the way, they're on the way. I'm going to use that. I like that one.
It's not one of my quotes. I heard it from somewhere else, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll steal it as well now. Yeah, I'm going to use that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I know I've learned a lot. I'm sure the people that watch the podcast are also going to learn a lot. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me as well. I know it's early morning over there as well. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
That's all right. No problem. I'm sure we will speak again soon. And thanks to everyone for listening to the podcast. We'll be back again next week with another episode, and we'll see you then. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover on the podcast, or you'd like to appear on it, then please contact us at hwpoduk@gmail.com, on our website, which is healthwealthuk.com, or on any of our social medias, which are at hwpoduk. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share it with all your friends and family, and we will see you next week.